Hello everyone, welcome. This is Father's Day. I wanted to make a quick little video here to talk about temptation. Christ in the Lord's Prayer. And I have before me here the Khaboris Manuscript. Christ says, "And let us yield not to temptation, but deliver us from evil." Let us yield not to temptation. This is the Khaboris Manuscript. It's a beautiful translation from the Aramaic. This was a document that was found in Aramaic, and it was translated. And let us yield not to temptation. So what is temptation? What is it? All right. It is the source of temptation is the devil or his dupes or his hypnotic, psychotic zombies. And how does temptation approach? It approaches in the mind, but of course through other people. They are tempted to tempt you. Other people are tempted to tempt you. But let's keep it very simple. It approaches in the mind. With a little child. See, and it's always working on the theme of doubt. Doubting God. Doubting what he said. Doubting that he meant what he said. And of course, even more doubts, doubting that he even exists and so on and so forth. Let's keep it very simple. Doubting, and then testing to see if what he said is true or not true, or testing to see if maybe it won't happen, to see if maybe it will happen, or to see if maybe it won't happen. So when you are tempted to steal something, you're tempted to do something that's wrong, and you know that it's wrong, and God said that it's wrong, but seeing if you can get away with it. Maybe it won't happen. So the devil is tempting you, or the thoughts are tempting you in a way to try to tempt God, but it says in the scripture, God cannot be tempted. So we're tempting God to make good on his promise, or maybe he won't make good on his promise and you'll get away with it. It's a doubt. A doubt that God said what he said and meant what he said. It's a doubt. So it'll tempt you in your mind to, but see, there are many variations of it. But remember what Christ told us to pray in the Lord's Prayer. And let us yield not. Let us yield not to temptation, but deliver us from evil, or from the evil one. Let us yield not. And let us yield not to temptation. So it's a yielding. It's a yielding to something that wants you to see if maybe we are tempted to, and then what? See, we're tempted to prove that what God said is not true. And then to use what? Knowledge to prove that it's not true, or that it won't happen. So kids are tempted to do something wrong, to do something foolish, or to do something dangerous. So it's like a dare. You're dared to see if you can get away with it. And of course there's excitement there, because it's exciting to see it's danger. And so most people live their whole life that way. They respond, they yield to temptation, Maybe I can win the lottery. See, maybe I can beat the casino. Maybe I can come up with a system. See, knowledge. A system so that I can beat the casino. You see the temptation? So you know that the odds always favor the house. You know that that we're not to try to get away with something. See, you're trying to get away with something. The odds say that the odds are in the favor of the casino, but you think maybe with knowledge they won't be. And at a deeper level, you're trying to get something for nothing. And the something that you get is at someone else's expense. See? Or you think, well, maybe what God said about illicit sexuality, maybe it's not true. Maybe I can get away with it. See? Maybe I can get something for nothing. So it's always there, tempting you to see if you can get something for nothing. To go rise to the dare, to the challenge, to the danger, and to tempt fate or to test God. See? So you have to learn to dismiss those. See, it'll tempt you to think something. See, this is so subtle. It will put the thought of doing something, of saying something blasphemous, or doing something very wrong. It'll tempt you with that. And it tempts you to yield to it in order to see if it'll happen, to see if it's true, to see if you could to get away with it. Or it's almost a temptation of God to see if he'll make good on what he said. But God can't be tempted. But you see what's going on. It tempts you to tempt fate, to test, to see whether the laws of physics are true, whether whether you do something dumb, if you can get away with it. So it's always the same. It's tempting you to drive too fast, to drink too much, to mishandle. You're doing something with something that's dangerous, and there it is tempting you to mishandle it. See, it's always there tempting you to not. It can even tempt you to text when you're driving, or to walk down the stairs carrying some items in a foolish way, some sharp, dangerous items, to carry them in a foolish way, or to carry too many of them. It'll tempt you to, see, I could go on and on. So it operates at many different levels. And it's always tempting you to do something that you know is wrong. And then after you've done it, then it accuses you. And then it tempts you to try to do something to get rid of it. In other words, see, but it's not your thought. I want you to see this, not your thought. For example, you can have a little kid, and something approaches them in their mind, and it tempts them to say something bad, and if they say it, then something awful will happen to their mother. I'm just making something up. So there it is, tempting them to say that. And it torments them a little bit, and then they say it in their mind. And then after they say it, then they immediately feel terrible for having said it. And then it approaches them and tempts them and said, well, if you turn around 10 times and hold your breath for 10 seconds, then it won't happen. So then they do that. But do you see the endless games that it plays? It can be a total trap. But I want you to see that it was not your thought. It's it. So all you must do when these thoughts approach you, they can be very subtle. They can be very subtle. You could be reading where Christ said something, and then in your mind it says it's not true. Or you're thinking about Christ and it said, he didn't really do what they say he did. It could be that subtle. Just notice it and dismiss it. Don't get caught up with it. Don't try to prove it or disprove it. Don't believe it or disbelieve it. Just let it pass. These thoughts, they can be so subtle. And sometimes they're not subtle. There's a $5 bill laying there, and in your mind, it tempts you to go ahead and take it. You know it's not yours. You see, there's nothing subtle about that. So it's very difficult to talk about. But I want you to see that evil is always there. As one man said so well, he said it's always crouching on your doorstep, waiting for a little opening. And where it approaches is in the mind. But you think those thoughts are your thoughts. Then you feel guilty for them. Or you follow them thinking it's your thought. It's not your thought. It's always there. And it operates at all levels. It's there in academia, saying that, that God didn't create things and everything just sort of happened. And it's there in science, saying that, there's no centrifugal force, and it's always making you doubt that what is true, and it's always seeking, it's always trying to help you doubt that what God said is true, to doubt that God's laws are true, and that doing wrong things have consequences. Always getting away with something, stealing something, and thinking, seeing if you can get away with it. That's a temptation. So some people, it's not even that they want the thing to steal. It's not that they want that. It's that they want to see if they can get away with it. And they're tempting God. It's like it's tempting you to tempt God. See, it's very subtle. So just notice that. See it. It's not your thought. Even a terrible thought, a blasphemous thought, a dirty thought, a dangerous thought of doing, or a thought of doing, it's not yours. Just see it's not yours and dismiss it. Just dismiss it. There is a way of dismissing it without struggling with it. You just dismiss it and go on with everything, your life. See? So, but it is appropriate to ask God to let us not yield to temptation. You see? You yield to the dare, to the challenge, to the tease, to see if, to find out if. See? So you could take this little principle that I've just talked about and see how it applies in so many different ways. So just watch out for the trap. And you'll be safe.